And none other than Tracy Wiener joins us now to break this all down. And we look at the bracket, Tracy. I want you to tell us first your favorite first-round matchup. Who are you going with?
My favorite first-round matchup is JMU versus Johns Hopkins University. I love it. Two great coaches in Tucker and Shelley Claes-Balcom. You know, Tuck's won her 300th this year. Her team is playing unbelievably well. The only problem is that they haven't played in 2 weeks since their conference have ended. So, you know, Schneiderith is one of the best players to ever come out of Hopkins. You have Cordingley. Hellbergs needs to play huge. But, you know, Garvey needs to be huge in the cage as well. You know, they really have so many good pieces. McPherson and Mayer really are dominant on the ground ball game. You know, I just think that JMU is playing the best lacrosse right now that they have this season. They have won their 4th straight CAA championship, and, you know, they are on a 6-game winning streak. Molly Doherty, I think, is their best player, the goalie. I think that she's going to be the difference maker in this. I think their experience in playing in these big games, and again, I think that they were gelling at the right time. And I think although Hopkins, honestly, is playing very, very well. They're having one of the best seasons ever that I can remember in Janine's history. You know, but again, having been laid off now for 2 weeks since their Big Ten conference ended could be a little bit of an issue for them.
Yeah, and you have the Big Ten, in which they only play the Big Ten. So the first sort of dipping the toe outside of, look, wouldn't say it's comfortable, but you get your first experience outside of the Big Ten. You don't really know what you're going to get. So that's another underlying factor to this one. You want to go to the West Coast for another one you like?
I do. I want to hit the Pac-12 champions, Stanford versus Denver. And again, a great matchup. You know, Liza Kelly at Denver having one of the best seasons of her career out there. But listen, when you look at what Stanford has accomplished, they are 9-0 finishing their season, 7-0 in conference. Ali Biaka, Pac-12 Player of the Year. Genesis Lucero, her draw controls are off the chart. They're only one of 3 undefeated teams left in the NCAA at this time, with UNC and Northwestern. That's not terrible company to be in. You know, their goalie, Raheem, is having a real solid year. But when you look at Denver, here's what I see with them. They have 9 goal scorers in double digits. Very difficult matchups for any defense. They have been the Big East champions for the first time ever in the history of their program. Behrens is the Big East Attacker of the Year. Molly Little is the Defensive Player of the Year. Amelia Cole is your Goalie Player of the Year. So those awards alone, you have all the pieces. You have one of the top scorers in the country on your team. Player of the Year. But on the defensive end, you have the midfield Defensive Player of the Year and the Goalie Player of the Year. We all know that defense wins championships. So I will give Denver just a slight edge in this game.
Denver 15-1 this year. Stanford on the other side of things. They play in that Pac-12, which seems like year after year it is really competitive. And to come out of that undefeated is really good, too. So we can't wait for that matchup. All right, Tracy, who got the toughest draw in this tournament?
Okay, so it's the same answer that I'm going to tell you for the past, let's see, 6 years. And we're going to stick with Long Island on this one, Stony Brook. It's just mind-boggling. The seed that they always get, the placement in the brackets, the road that they must take to get to the Final Four is just unbelievable. To think that they had such an amazing season, Allie Kennedy, Taryn Allmill, those guys are strong Tewaaraton candidates. You know, Stony Brook just year in and year out does everything that the NCAA asks of them and what their schedule asks of them. And yet when the seeding comes out, it's always the same story. They're going to have to get through UNC in the quarterfinals, which is unreal, assuming that UNC gets there, of course. And then moving forward, they would have to beat Notre Dame or BC, in my opinion, and then Northwestern or Syracuse to win the whole thing. So you're going to have to play, 3 out of the top 5 teams in the country to win the NCAA championships, and you're one of the top seeded teams in this tournament. It's unbelievable to me. But look, I know Joe Spallina forever. He'll tell you to be the best, you got to beat the best. Just roll with it. It is what it is. But holy cow, that is a tough route for my little Lady Seawolves there.
And that first round matchup against Towson, don't sleep on that either, Tracy. They played earlier in the year. That was a 2-goal game. I mean, that's also a tough competitor. You know, after Towson did struggle at the end of their year, but I mean, you've got even the familiarity there between those two. It's tough to beat a team 2 times no matter what.
That's true. But in the beginning of the year, I really felt like Tio was trying to get her footing. Spallina had to put in all new defensive pieces. So I actually feel like Stony Brook is a little stronger now and a little more confident than when they played Towson in the beginning of the season. But again, you never know, and that's why you play these games. And you're right. I mean, I'm not going to lie. So they get Towson, and then they'll play the winner of, if they can get through Towson, Drexel, Rutgers. So again, I just kind of feel like it is a tough road for them. And, I'm a Long Islander. I'm pushing for the Long Island. There's Long Island kids all over the place. It is a great year to be a Long Island lacrosse player.
Yeah. Yeah, and Allie Kennedy, anytime we get to see her play, I think is always a fun time for all involved. So speaking of players, who needs to step up here in this tournament, Tracy? Who do you see as getting an opportunity to break out?
Well, there's a few players. I mean, I look at the teams that were traditional powerhouses. You look at the Maryland that nobody's talking about. I mean, Maryland, no one's speaking about them at all. So, some of their players have to step up. You have Duke when you look at them. There's also some great pieces on these teams where their players, in order for them to really get through the big rounds. I look at Florida and I look at Shannon Kavanaugh, Cara Trombetta, but I just think that all these players, everybody has one or two big pieces. Even Notre Dame, they have so many great players, and everybody needs to be on their A game right now. But when we really talk about moving forward and who we're looking at, I'm going to say to you, Izzy Skane needs to keep doing what she's doing at Notre Dame. At Northwestern. She needs to have a huge tournament. We look at Syracuse and all that they bring. I think, their goal, Asa Goldstock needs to carry them through the NCAAs. Excuse me one second. And in BC, of course, Charlotte North, but Charlotte needs to make sure that her surrounding pieces shine as well. Yeah,
Charlotte North, she has been sort of outstanding all season long in the highlights and whatnot, but they need the players like Medjid and Rachel Hall and maybe some of those other pieces around them. BC's the 4th seed. They're in the bottom of that North Carolina bracket, and then they're a team that, they're made up of a lot of different players that we've seen that big 3, but Belle Smith, another player as a freshman, their future is very bright, and maybe trying to get some of that experience now too, just from looking at them.
Right, without a doubt. And if I had to pick my Final 4 today.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth there, Tracy. What is your Final 4?
Top bracket, UNC versus BC. Bottom bracket, CUSA Northwestern. And I actually have a UNC Northwestern championship. And that would be anybody's game. Right now, I think that Northwestern's been flying under the radar the entire season. I cannot wait to see how they flourish in this tournament. And they're probably the least beat-up team out of everybody. I think that they're healthy. I think that they're strong. And I think that they're enjoying flying under the radar.
And I think someone for them that's made a difference that a lot of people have talked about is Sammy Mueller, who came over from Virginia as a grad transfer, I believe. And that just brings Izzy Skane, we talk about her a lot, but Mueller is another threat for everybody to think about, and that really helps, I think, Northwestern's cause.
Absolutely, because the matchup, when we look at the matchups, what you see is that Skane's always going to draw the best defender, and maybe even that double team slide, and that allows Mueller the freedom to roam. And if she can expose the number 3 defender that's on her, or sometimes the number 4 defender that's on her in a mismatch, she could be that deciding factor, and she knows how to take advantage of that. She's a savvy player, and she's just loving life right now at Northwestern.
Yeah, she's been filling it up all year long. So you've got UNC Northwestern in the final. What would it take? Would it be Izzy Skane scoring 8 goals? It's like, do you try to run with them? Or we saw in the ACC tournament, North Carolina held to 9, I think, against Syracuse in that final. It looked like, yes, it could be done, maybe, but I don't know.
It's going to be the physicality of Northwestern, what they bring to the table. When you play Syracuse and when you play Northwestern, you're going to get beat up on the field. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that you're going to get some blue-collar, strong, physical, athletic play happening. And it's not always pretty lacrosse, but boy, is it gritty as heck. And I think for UNC, they're going to have to learn how to play through that and know what it's like that every time Ortega, Hogue, those guys go to gold, they're going to feel it. But again, for Kerrigan Miller, for Ortega, for, those guys, Ortega's got another year if she chooses to stay. But Hogue, this is it. This is their senior year and senior plus year for some of them. And so I think that they're going to come out with, just something that you can't even explain. And I think it's going to be a great game. But I do think it's going to be, prettiness versus that blue collar, let's see if they can take a hit and keep on going. And I can't wait for it, because I do think if those 4 teams end up with maybe another team or two that could squeeze in there, I just think it's going to be such an athletic, physical, but also beautiful Final Four, because you have the best of the best in all categories.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to these games, like we started the segment off, of just some of these competitive matchups we'll have in the first few rounds. Tracy, as always, we appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on as the tournament goes on, too, to get your thoughts, as always.
Listen, I hope that these guys make a real, a believer out of me. I love it. Again, it's only a couple of weeks till Towson. I can't wait to get there.
Yeah, I think everybody's excited for that. And we're just glad to have it this year. After last year, we had it stolen from us. This year, we got it back. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.